Good evening, everybody. My name is Tedesco. As I just said, my project is the value of Beethoven, the economic history of the Auckland community. Presentation format will be as such: background, objectives of study, methodology, and prior research, comparing two orchestras, and the implications of the study. Orchestras are looked at and said to be dying. It's said that orchestras are going bankrupt. There's nothing we can do about them. They're not valued by society. So I'm researching this value. We have had the Philadelphia Orchestra, the Honolulu Symphony, and Detroit Symphony in the United States all have serious funding issues in the past decade. In Great Britain, $300 million needs to be cut from arts funding. In the Netherlands, up to $975 million needs to be cut from arts funding. The value has changed, and I intend to look at this with one orchestra at the Auckland Philharmonic. Before it used to be, 200 years ago, 100 years ago, when the orchestra was created, it was a song like this. Now, that has changed a little today. Today, when we think of popular music, it's this. But you get to see it. Now, the objectives of my study are this. In this study, I will argue that the dynamic between Wellington and Auckland has had a detrimental impact on orchestras in the city from 1940 to 2012. And I say this for two reasons. One, because Wellington is the capital. The Auckland, the NZSO has been the national orchestra. And two, because only 11% of the population actually go to concerts, which means that it is a cultural minority aspect. Because people say that we should go to orchestras, and yet 89% of the population doesn't actually go, which is a serious problem. So the ways I'm going to study this are I'm going to actually go and watch concerts, see who's going, how many people are going, are they sold out, are they not sold out? I'm going to go and look at archives. I'm going to look to see what is the history of orchestras in Auckland, how has the history been created, what happened in the past with orchestras that has led to them being how they are today, and what's going to go on in the future, possibly. I'm also going to look at the economics of the orchestra as well. How have the economics affected the development of orchestras in the city of Auckland and on the global scale as well? Now, the research on this is very varied, but there are a couple of pertinent points that comes up. The first one is, what is a symphonic concert? Where did it come from? How did it form to be what it is? Second is, what has music had an effect on society? Obviously, we all enjoy music. There's some effect. Some of us classical, some of us popular. Whatever that means. And finally, we look at many facets of the art scene, from government funding to building participation as well. For the theoretical aspects, I'm using Pierre Bourdieu, Timothy Taylor, and William Beaumont, Bowen, and David Trotsky. For Pierre Bourdieu, he has two, cultural and social capital. And what he says is, you have to learn to enjoy this music. You have to build their participation. You have to have a special code. And you have to take, society has to take this music and actually make it into something that is pertinent and relevant to that society. So what he has done is with the communication of music with Timothy Taylor, he says you need to reify it. You need to take it into something that can be bought and sold, such as a CD, such as an iPod, such as a recording of music, and ticket sales as well. Now, there's something wrong with for the economics of music. You can't exactly have an orchestra concert without an orchestra, really. And there's a set amount of cost that goes to that, especially since something like the town hall or the ALTS Center have a very fixed amount of seats that you can use. So there's a fixed cost there, and your amount of tickets you sell, you can't actually sell more and make more money. For example, at least you get to see an orchestra. You go to see an orchestra. You don't go to see one violist. So I can't take instrumentalists away and say, I'm just going to do Beethoven's Fifth myself. I need an orchestra. That's your fixed cost. So there are three ways to do this. Governmental support. Then there's where the government actually subsidizes it, which is what New Zealand does. Then you have private funding, where private citizens or private companies actually fund the orchestra. The third one that I identified is called the business enterprise model, where an orchestra actually is able to go out and sell enough tickets, recordings, merchandise in order to fund their activities. No professional orchestra in the world is able to do that. It is 150 years ago, yes, they were. The value of music has changed. No orchestra can do that. Not the Mighty Berlin Phil, which you just saw, not the Vienna Philharmonic, not the NZSO. So it's a problem. You need some sort of subsidy. For the New Zealand Symphony, it was created in 1946 as the government. The purpose was basically a symbol of the country's cultural maturity. And it was to go around all of New Zealand and bring orchestral music to cities and towns. So it was based in London, went to Auckland, Otara, it went down to Christchurch, Dunedin, wherever, and it traveled around. Now, in 1940, the Auckland String Players were created. It was very much a part-time ensemble, and they did lunchtime concerts. But by 1967, they had added winds and brass and percussion. By 1975, this orchestra was a full-time symphony orchestra, the Symphony of Auckland. By 1980, it went bankrupt. And the city said, we do not want to save you. You are not important to us. We're just going to let you go bankrupt. I'm sorry, we don't have the money to fund you. The players decided that they were going to form their own ensemble and own their own ensemble themselves. They owned the Auckland Philharmonium when they started, which is first in the world. No orchestra had ever been owned by the players before. Unfortunately, in 2004, this orchestra was bankrupt again, except something happened. The city said, you know what? We're going to save you. You are important to us. So, Creative New Zealand, Auckland City, and Concerned Citizen banded together, and they were able to save the orchestra. The players no longer own it, but it has a CEO, and what they do is they said, we're going to go out into the community. We are going to become relevant to our community. So what they did was they started something called Sistema Aotearoa. They give it's based in Otara, and they give instruments to children, and they teach them music, and they also teach them societal values, how to be a good person, how to work together in a team, because that's what an orchestra is. So that's what they are doing to make themselves relevant to their community. As I said, society has placed some sort of value on music, and the Auckland Philharmonic is trying to become that valued in the community. Because the SO travels around, and they're based in London, they can't be the same type. They can't have the same type of community involvement as the APO, because the APO is becoming central to the community. The NSO travels around. However, the yearly government funding for the APO is $4.4 million. The NZSO is $13.5. New Zealand spends about $24 million in total on orchestras every year. So the NZSO gets more than half of that. And the other money is divided on 3 other orchestras: the APO, the Dunedin Sinfonietta, Vector Wellington, and also the Christchurch Symphony, with the APO getting about 2.5 million and the Auckland City donating about 2.5 as well, for 48% of their total revenue. With the NZSL, the government supplies 71%. There is an orchestral review going on right now, where where in the first time in 70 years, what they're doing is they're looking at how do we actually get equitable funding for orchestras. So my research is looking at what has the APO done, what is the NZSO doing to be relevant to their communities, and how is this going to impact their orchestras. And other orchestras can then look at this and say, these education programs are actually working. Because no one's actually ever looked at Sistema programs. It's a worldwide movement from Venezuela. And no one has actually ever looked at saying, well, it looks like a good idea, but we have no idea if it actually is. But the APO is doing it, and they are researching this. So my research goes right into this, so that you can see if this actually is working. And to help the government figure out how do we make sure that we have a national orchestra and a very strong Auckland-based orchestra as well. The void between classical music and popular music is an artificial one. All societies must have music because there's been no society we've actually found that does not have music. Going around all over the world, there's some sort of musical tradition. So it is central. And if I were to sing notes to you, and you were to sing them back, you'd be able to do it because we are all part of this whole musical field. We have all listened to it, we all enjoy it. So it all relates to value. This picture is from the Auckland Philharmonia when they actually had rap artists come in and discuss, and they had rap artists come in and actually sing with the orchestra. So, thank you very much.